The AP poll is out. Not a ton of crazy movement, but there's always a little bit of overreaction after the first week of polling, and I think it's justifiable to kind of go through it a little bit. We don't usually put a ton of stock in the AP poll. We will spend a little bit more time on the college football playoff rankings when those come out, because that is, I think, a more comprehensive view of what we're trying to do, given the fact that the college football rankings, they take 8 weeks before they start putting polls out. But nonetheless, the AP does a thankless job, and I appreciate them for it. A couple of takeaways. Nothing outrageous. Georgia jumped Ohio State. They're now up to number 2. You can make a case, regardless of how you feel. The best performance of the weekend was Georgia. So if you want to make a case to move them all the way up to the number 1 line, I wouldn't push back on that. Alabama was steady and cruised against a team that won double-digit games last year and won 55-0 and really didn't have to sweat whatsoever. Really had no reason to have any issues. But they dominated Utah State. So if you want to keep Bama at 1, that's fine. But if you're basing the performance off of how teams played in week 1, Georgia's probably your number 1 ranked team. Other things of significance: Michigan up 4 spots. I'm not sure why. I thought Michigan looked really good, for sure. But 4 spots of movement? I mean, that's pretty decent-sized leap. Thought Cade McNamara, of course, had his struggles. J.J. McCarthy looked pretty good. Defensively, I was really impressed with how they handled the tempo. So Michigan jumping up wasn't really that surprising, but 4 spots felt like a little bit of an overreaction. Oklahoma jumped up a couple spots as well. USC, talk about overreaction, up 4 spots. They played Rice, y'all. Like, let's not get carried away. I mean, 4-spot jump based on the performance against Rice. That seems aggressive. Other teams of significance, Florida's all the way up to number 12 now. Florida was unranked in the preseason. This is a major overreaction. Look, I'm glad. I'm calling the Florida game this week. So I'm happy that Florida is up at number 12. That's great for the game, because now you have a top 20 matchup against Kentucky. But they had a couple red zone stops. Anthony Richardson looked amazing. I mean, but to be unranked and now all the way up to 12 seems like a pretty decent-sized move. So other massive overreactions. Oregon falling all the way out of the top 25. I'm not saying they should be in the top 25. I thought they looked bad last week. No doubt about it. But to be number 11 in the preseason and then drop all the way out, that's the way we should evaluate every team. Like, every single week, we should completely scrap the week before and start from scratch. Because you look at this AP poll, I mean, it's like, oh, well, this team won, let's move them up 1, and this team lost, let's move them down a couple. But their preconceived notions are already baked into the equation when you're trying to assess these teams in a 1 through 20 to 25 basis. You should just start from scratch. Team played great, reward them. Team played bad, take them out. Utah, for example, I don't think they should be ranked number 13. They played bad. They didn't play great. Couldn't finish drives in the red zone. Didn't do terrible, but couldn't finish drives in the red zone. Simple as that. They shouldn't be 13 in the country. Did they have the 13th best performance last weekend? I don't think so. Did they have a top 25 performance last weekend? Arguably, but probably not. And we should rank teams accordingly. For instance, NC State, they go and play a difficult spot at East Carolina. Don't think they looked great by any stretch of the imagination, but did they deserve to drop 5 spots because they played against a quality bowl East Carolina team in their house? And they played really poorly, had a couple goal line stops. And as a result, the game got hotly contested and they had to rely on a missed extra point and a missed field goal to actually win the game. Yeah, I mean, they got away with one for sure. But to drop them 5 spots, I don't know. I just don't necessarily like the process. Like, we should start from scratch every week. Scrap last week. Here's this week. React to the games this week. Scrap this week. Here's next week. But it seems like we almost start with the weeks before or the week before, and then we just adjust teams accordingly based on where they were the previous week. And that, to me, feels like we're doing a little bit of disservice when it comes to ranking these teams and trying to evaluate these teams on a bigger picture. So, long story short, AP poll is as follows: Bama, Georgia, Ohio State. No surprise there. Ohio State, did they deserve to get dropped? I'm not 100%. It doesn't really bother me that bad, if I'm being totally honest with you. It's okay. But they struggled, looked a little shaky. Maybe the receivers didn't play quite as well, but you also have to give credit to Notre Dame in the process. So that's your top three. The rest will round out. You could see it here with some of the graphics that we'll put together. Rest will round out. Like I said, that's about as much as we'll probably do on the AP poll in quite a while. Unless there's some earth-shattering movement next week, you're not going to have a weekly breakdown of all the movement and all the things that go down as far as the AP poll is concerned.
McElroy, if you had to redo it from week after week, where would you put Florida State this week if you had to do the AP poll?
Florida State and LSU, based on how they played on Sunday, would probably still be on the outside looking into the top 25. Just full disclosure, the mistakes that were made, Florida State and LSU, for that matter, both made a cacophony of errors. Punts being dropped, field goals and extra points being blocked, pitching it on the goal line fumble, allowing LSU to go 99 yards after said pitch and fumble in a 2-minute operation with one timeout. They're just neither team last week. Well, I came away super impressed with the resilience that both teams showed in some ways. There were also a ridiculous amount of mistakes that were made. So, like I said, maybe not in the top 25. If I did squeak them in, I'm really going to actually do this exercise. They'd probably be somewhere between 20 and 25 if I had them in at all. But still, it's not like they came away. It's not like I came away last week saying, man, Florida State's unstoppable force. I came away saying, man, Florida State was pretty fortunate to win that game. Same, LSU was pretty fortunate to be in that game. So both teams, I think, hey, exciting game on Sunday. It was awesome. But are they really deserving of top 25 credentials just yet? Probably not.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.